And also sponsored by Flores Glass, serving the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Another episode of Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcox. Before we get into tonight's show, had a couple of things I wanted to kind of toss out to you. I had a viewer send me a text message earlier this evening, and he's one of our out-of-state viewers who views us over the internet each week. And he was getting a message saying that the content was blocked to some of that extent. I was speaking with Lee, our controller in tech, a few moments ago, and he seemed to think that there was probably something, there's a complex agreement, I guess you'd say, between the station and the company that provides and does the actual broadcasting over the internet. And my admittedly limited understanding of that is that it's in some part based on the number of people who, who log in and view content over the web. And so from day to day, week to week, month to month, that number fluctuates, of course, the number of people who actually log on and watch programming over the internet. So periodically, I guess if I'm understanding this correctly, periodically we reach a threshold or a limit or whatever, and it has to be renewed. So anyway, I've sent a message out to the powers that be. Hopefully we'll get that resolved. But it reminded me of something I had been meaning to bring up to you, the viewers, for some time now. I think most of you probably watch over cable TV. We obviously are coming across Optimum, previously Suddenlink Cable TV Company. And I think some of you probably watch over the airways with an antenna. I'd be curious to know, we're trying to kind of get an idea about how far our range goes over the open airwaves. So if you're viewing the show or the channel, the station, any programming from WHIG TV over the airwaves, as opposed to being on cable TV, I'd be curious to hear from you. The number here, of course, is 407-1111, and I'm not sure how many viewers we have that view the broadcast here over the airwaves, but if you do, I'd be interested to hear not only how far away you are, and the reason I mention that is because there's some things in the works that, and I'm not sure how far along the process is, but hopefully in the not too distant future, some new equipment will enhance our range, so we'll be able to reach out further, if you will, and broadcast to a larger audience. So if you're on the outer fringes and don't have a real good signal now, hopefully, and again in the not too distant future, I don't have an exact time frame or date to give you, but I understand this is in the works, and so maybe if you're now just on the outer fringes of being able to pick up the station over the airwaves, maybe that'll change sooner rather than later. Sure hope so anyway. Okay, so having said that, the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been on this, if you will, now, then and now. And if you watch the show, you know we've been going back and looking at old Rocky Mount City directories, specifically looking at advertisements into the directory from the late 40s, early 50s, early 60s, and then looking to see what was at that location today. And so that's been very well received. I've had a lot of people call and text me and say they learned a lot and enjoyed that content. So we're going to pick that back up tonight. I was doing some digging around, and I do that periodically. I go on the internet and I'll go to the newspapers.com website and just kind of browse around through there. Then I'll go back to the city directories and browse around in there. And so a combination of newspapers.com browsing and 1948 Rocky Mount City directory browsing, I came up with the advertisement I'm about to share with you here. And some of these were quite well, for lack of a better term, surprising. We'll put it that way, to me anyway. Some of you will probably remember some of these locations and these businesses and the different locations these businesses were over the years. One in particular I'll show you in a moment. That is the very first one. Let's go ahead and put up item number 1 for our viewers. In 1948 Rocky Mount City directory, Brown Memorial had this ad, and you see there it says Brown Memorial Company, Nashville Highway. Interestingly too, you'll notice there's an office phone listed and a residence phone listed, and it's the same number. And I don't know if that's because Mr. Brown, who was running the business at the time, I don't think he was living in the funeral home, but there was a time when the phone company would do that. They would actually, we used to call it wiring off or splitting off a pair of wires and sending the same dial tone and same phone number to two different locations. So I'm thinking that's what happened here, and so that he was able to receive phone calls after hours for the business at his home, at his residence. And so, but anyway, this was the ad that appeared in the Rocky Mount City Directory in the 1948 edition for Brown Memorial Company. Now, I've been familiar with Brown Memorial for most of my life. I knew where they were, at least I thought I did, until I started doing this research here. And what I found out is that I didn't know as much about the companies I thought I did. And maybe some of you will remember some of these locations, and if you don't remember, you may be as surprised as I was to find out where some of these were. That being said, let's go to item number 2. In 1950, the Rocky Mount Telegram actually placed this ad for Brown Memorial Company. And you see that it says, if you desire a personalized monument, we offer our designing service at no extra cost to you. Brown Memorial Company, Mr. John F. Brown was the proprietor, of course. And you see that at the bottom, it says Nashville Highway just across the river. So that got me thinking. I said, well, you know, I seem to recall there being a Brown Memorial on Sunset Avenue, because in 1948, 1950, when this ad came out, Sunset Avenue, once you got past the city lake and were headed west out of Rocky Mount, it was just considered Nashville Highway. But in any case, this picture appeared, and so it's very grainy. It's not a great quality image. This was in the Telegram, as I said, and quite often the photographs that are reproduced just aren't very clear. But in any case, I tried to envision where this building was, and for the life of me, I couldn't place it. And then I seem to recall there being a building really right down there beside Johnson's Funeral Home. And I think, and maybe someone who has a better recollection than I do about this can call in and kind of clarify this for us. But I almost think, if memory serves, I think this was there at the intersection of Sunset Avenue and Golly, the street that goes across there by the auto parts store and the old Modern Products building. I forget the name of that street now. It goes back there to the old putt-putt back there next to the woods. And then, of course, it crosses Sunset Avenue, goes the other way and curves around behind the shopping center there where the old grocery store was, and by Ichiban, and comes up 301 that way. But anyway, I think that's where this was. But Brown Memorial, of course, was another location. This was just one. Item number 3, if you would, Lee, I found this picture. And this is where they are today. They're on, technically it's Wesleyan Boulevard, but we know it's Highway 301, of course. And that's where Brown Memorials is today. So I never could find an actual physical address for Brown Memorial back in the 40s and 50s, because again, in that time frame, it was just referred to as Nashville Highway. But it did say just across the bridge. So it kind of, you know, in that general area of the Johnson Funeral Home. And if anyone remembers precisely where it was, give us a call, 407-1111. But in any case, this is one of the businesses that has been in obviously more than one location over the years. And I want to say they were actually in another location on 301 before they moved into this location here. It's a little fuzzy, but I think I remember being somewhere before I think they built this place here, actually. Okay, let's move on then, Lee. Item number 4. In the 1948 Rocky Mount City Directory, this ad appeared. Coppage and Campbell, and you see they were a dealer for Nord's electric refrigerators and appliances, RCA Victor radios, gas ranges and oil heaters, Maytag washers and ironers. That's the first time I've ever seen an ironer listed in an ad, but an ironer. And you see the address there is 131 Sunset Avenue. And so I was thinking, okay, let me kind of get my mind wrapped around this. 131 Sunset Avenue, where in the world would that be? So I went back to my trusty Google and typed in the address of 131 Sunset Avenue. And item number 5, if you would, Lee, this is actually the location. Kind of give you an idea of where this is. This is kind of generally across the street from the old Center Theater. To your right would be where Church Street crosses over Sunset. To your left, you see the old Planters Bank building there on the far left of your screen. So to the left would be going toward the railroad tracks, downtown Rocky Mount. To the right, we're going back toward Church Street. I couldn't get an exact address on those two buildings that are right there, but either it was in one of those two spaces or in this blank space here where there's nothing there now. I'm really not certain, but this is the general area of where Coppage and Campbell was located in the 1940s. I'm not sure how long they were there. I didn't really try to go beyond 1948 and see if they were there in 1950 and 55 and so forth. You've heard me say before, I've got a fairly good collection of early Rocky Mount City directories, but the latest one I've got is from 1963, I believe it is. And so it's interesting sometimes to go and just kind of trace out the path of these businesses over the years, but I just didn't have time to do that tonight. So this is the only location I found, and I don't recall ever hearing about Coppage and Campbell before. But in the 1940s, 1948 specifically, they were in business and they sold appliances right here in this general area. Okay, all right, let's move on then, Lee. Item number 6. In 1948, the Davis Tile and Marble Company placed this ad in the Rocky Mount City directory. And you see they were dealers for tile, marble, asphalt, and flagstone, and they were located at 2800 South Church Street. This was another business that I just had no recollection for. And of course, 1948, I was not a twinkle in anybody's eye at that point. It's well before my days. I'm sure maybe some of you remember this, but in any case, again, had no inkling about this business, no recollection of it, and so went searching, tried to find out where it was, and so when I punched in the address into my Google search engine, 2800 South Church Street, I came up with item number 7, if you would, Lee, and this is where Davis Tile and Marble Company was. And it's kind of hard to tell here. This is actually near the intersection of Church Street and Amos Street. And that vacant lot there directly in front of you, there's nothing there now, it's just a vacant lot, but that's where the Davis Tile and Marble Company was located in 1948. I don't know how long they were there or when they ceased to be a business or moved or when whatever building they were in there was torn down, but now it's a vacant lot there. But again, 2800 South Church Street, and this is where the general area where Amos Street crosses over crosses over Church Street, and this was a corner lot there, and that's where they were located. Okay, let's move on then, Lee. Item number 8. Drummond's Florist has been in business at Rocky Mount for a number of years, much longer than I realized, in fact. This ad appeared in the Rocky Mount City directory in 1948 as well. Can we zoom out, Lee? I'm not quite sure why it blows up like that. Some of these ads, when I screenshot them to get them and save them in the format that we use here on the show, there you go. That's what the actual ad looks like. You see Drummond Florist there, flowers for every occasion, greenhouse and office at 409 Redgate Avenue. Well, I knew where Redgate Avenue was, and I just could not place anything in that area that would be a business. And so when I went looking and punched in 409 Redgate Avenue, lo and behold, item number 9, if you would now, Lee, this is what I came up with. 409 Redgate Avenue was actually a residence. That little white house there is 409 Redgate Avenue. So to kind of give you an idea where this is, it's in the general area over there of Arlington Street, near Arlington Baptist Church, that general area right over there. But you know, once I realized that this was where the business was located, it got me thinking, and particularly for florists, this was very common in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Many of you remember Mary Smith's Florist on Falls Road. Miss Smith operated that florist out of her home for many, many years there. Over on Sunset Avenue, right around the corner from Bobby Mears Supermarket, their little shopping center there, Mr. Tharrington ran Tharrington's Florist out of his home for many, many years. Now, he did have a little shop behind the house, and that was the actual florist itself, but it was basically a home business that he built a little shop behind his house. And so I don't know, I'm guessing behind this house there may have been a little shop at one time. But in any case, in 1948, Drummond Florist was operating out of this home right here, or at least this address. Again, it could have been a little shop or a little building behind the house. But this was where it was in 1948. So I did a little more digging, and I knew where Drummond's was because I ride about all the time. but I wanted to get a shot for the viewers. So Lee, if you would put up item number 10 then, and this is the location of Drummond Florist today. And of course, this is on what's commonly called Highway 43. It's also known as Dorches Boulevard. But if you're headed west on Bimini Road, as you get out of town, it turns in, of course, to Dorches Boulevard, and Drummond's is on your right there. And I want to say they were somewhere else before they moved here. I'm kind of scratching my head, really trying to remember if I could envision them being somewhere else in Rocky Mount. But Sue Drummond has been running this business for many, many years, and I don't know if maybe her mother or her parents may have started the business originally. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me. I could be wrong about that. But this is where it is now, and she's been to this like this for a right good while, now, a number of years anyway. Okay, Lee, let's move on then. Item number 11. 1948 City Directory had multiple listings for jewelers and jewelry stores, and if you go back and look from the 1930s to the 1940s, 1950s, even into the 60s and 70s, there were jewelry stores all up and down both sides of Main Street. There was jewelry stores. There's one down on Falls Road, Williams Watch Shop. But there was a number. The Jewel Box on Main Street. There was Fox Jewelers down there. There was, golly, at least 3 or 4 others. I ran across several ads for jewelers all over Rocky Mount in the 1940s. But in 1948, this ad appeared, Gaiman's Jewelers, and you see they specialize in diamonds, watches, and silverware, and they were exclusive agents for Towel silverware. I don't know that you could even find any Towel silverware anymore today, unless it may be an antique shop. But they were located at 139 Southeast Main Street. And so I said, okay, 139 Southeast Main Street, what is there today? So I did a Google search for that address, 139 Southeast Main Street, and item number 12, if you would, Lee. This is the location today of where Gaiman's Jewelers was in 1948. And it's interesting because, there you go, right there in the middle is where it was, and you see it looks like a jewelry store even today. It retained pretty much the exact same facade on the front, everything as it did in the 1940s. To the right is what's now called Davis Lofts. I think it's some housing apartments there in that building there. And I think there was also a jewelry store to the left at one time of this building here, this space here, I should say. But it was just surprising to me the number of jewelry stores that were in operation up and down Main Street in Rocky Mount during the 40s and 50s. And over the years, they one by one all closed up. I don't think there's a jewelry store at all downtown anymore. The few that do remain in Rocky Mount are out at Golden East Mall, of course. I think there's one out at the Harris Teeter Shopping Center, Westridge, I think it's called now. I think there's one out there, Osborne Jewels, I guess it's still in operation out there. And of course, Bailey's Jewelry is right across there on Winston Avenue. But for there to have been as many jewelry stores as there was in Rocky Mount, again in the 40s and 50s, it's ironic that there's so few, there's none, in fact, downtown Rocky Mount anymore. So, okay, I just realized it's time for our first commercial break. Lee, bring it back to me. When we come back from the break, we've got a bunch more of these to show you. We'll go back and look at some more ads from the 1940s and 1950s. I've got some more from the City Directory. I've got some from the Rocky Mount Telegram. So we'll show you what the ad was like, what it looked like in the ad, and then we'll also show you a modern day picture of what the location is today. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Way Back Wednesday.
Today, having the right healthcare plan tailored to your specific needs is vital to your peace of mind. The question is not if you will need the coverage, but when. And when that time comes, you want to be prepared. With the rising cost of medication, medical procedures, and doctor visits, you should know which is the right insurance plan for you. From life insurance, affordable health care, to Medicare, there are a lot of insurance options available, and choosing a plan can be overwhelming. Having Gus Tullis as your insurance professional on your side will give you peace of mind, because you will know you are covered with the insurance that meets your needs.
Hello, my name is Gus Tullis of Gus Tullis Insurance, and I've been helping people with their insurance needs for well over 20 years. Call me today. I'll answer any question you have. 252-937-6913. Looking forward to hearing from you.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service, we offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
There's a main nerve that leaves your back that goes into your hip and goes down your leg. It's called the sciatic nerve. A back injury can put pressure on that nerve, causing pain, numbness, tingling. Chiropractors can actually help that. At the Hammer Chiropractic Center on Sunset, we know exactly what to do. We have very good relationships with the doctors in Rocky Mount. We like to co-manage people's care. Some medications may help us do our jobs, and our jobs may help their medications work better.
If you or your loved one is living with hearing loss, and if you haven't found a solution that fits your lifestyle, then you should consult with the local experts at the new Hearing Aid Urgent Care in Nashville, North Carolina. Hearing Aid Urgent Care is a place to go for over-the-counter hearing solutions that will improve your daily life and communication between your loved ones and you. Purchasing in our store does not require any prescription or medical recommendation. Our team of experts does recommend a hearing examination so we can help you purchase the correct product for your personal needs. We hold regular listen and learn events so you can ask questions and work with the high-quality products from our vendors to find out what hearing device will best suit you before you buy. Open Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can call 252-459-4008 to find out more information. Hearing Aid Urgent Care located at 102 West Nashville Drive in Nashville, North Carolina.
We're back. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcox. We're talking about ads and locations of businesses from the 1948 city directory. Got a couple from the 1950-51 editions of the Rocky Mount Telegram also. And as we've done the last 2 or 3 weeks, we're looking at these ads and looking at the address and then looking to see what's at those locations today. In almost every instance, the business that was there in 1948 or 1950, 51 is no longer there. Many of these businesses are long out of business, don't exist anymore. But it's interesting to look forward from what was there 60, 70 years ago and see what's there now at that location. So that's what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're referring to it as then and now, okay? All right, so let's jump back into it, Lee. I think we stopped at number 12. Let's go back. Number 13 is our next one. 1948 City Directory had this ad for the Johnson Funeral Home. We mentioned the Brown Memorials a while ago. Johnson Funeral Home in 1948 had a listing in the Rocky Mount City Directory, and you see there it says Johnson Funeral Home Incorporated Embalmers at 422 South Church Street. They have an instant ambulance service day and night. I thought it was interesting that there's a funeral home that also doubles as an ambulance service. So if you don't quite survive your ride in the ambulance, they just wheel you right on into the embalming room and take care of you right there. Anyway, the address in 1948 for Johnson Funeral Home was at 422 South Church Street. Well, that surprised me because as a child I had very distinct memory of attending funerals, several in fact, at Johnson Funeral Home on Sunset Avenue. I never knew that they were ever located anywhere other than that. But obviously they were. In 1948, Johnson Funeral Home was located here at 422 South Church Street. So I thought, okay, well, let's go back and look and see what's at, or what is there now at 422 South Church Street. So if you would, Lee, item number 14, put that up for our viewers. And this is another one of those quite surprising things to me, because when I pulled up 422 South Church Street in a Google listing, this is what I found. Now, to your right there, that's the Rocky Mount Firehouse Museum. That address is 404. The building to your left there was a funeral home there, and maybe somebody remembers the name. I'm drawing a blank. But I don't think that was the address of Johnson Funeral Home, because that address, and I had to look through several different years. One neat thing about Google address searches is when you do a street search like this, sometimes it'll give you the option to go back and look at several screenshots, or snapshots I should say, of the location. Google started doing this back in, 2008, I think, 2007, 2008. You've probably seen a little car riding around. It's got the camera on top that does the 360 panoramic view pictures. And so they started running, oh, here we go, got a call. Maybe someone can refresh our memory here. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
All right, that place you're looking at right there now, that house, I think is the location where the Summerlin Funeral Home used to be.
That's it. That's exactly right. I couldn't
Mr. H.B. Johnson bought the Summerlin Funeral Home. Summerlin fella, I'm not sure, but I think he was operating. I don't know where he lived there or not, but that's where the Summerlin Funeral Home was. And Mr. Johnson bought that business in the late 40s, and Mr. Johnson built the new location out on Sunset Avenue. It opened in 1950.
Okay, so just to clarify, you're saying that house there where Summerlin Funeral Home was?
I think so.
Okay, because the address, what I was saying earlier, there was an address on one of the older images that I found for that house, and I think it was like 416 or something like that. But sometimes these street addresses change too over the years, I have found. So it's entirely possible that is indeed the location for Johnson Funeral Home, as well as the Summerlin. I remember that being a funeral home there, and I couldn't remember the name, but you're exactly right. And when you said Summerlin, I remembered that. So,
Mr. Johnson, I don't think operated that business out of that location, but about 1 year before he built the brick structure out there on Sunset Avenue. That would have been way before the US 301 bypass was built.
Right, okay. And we've got a picture. Lee, if you would put up item number 15, this is what I remember as Johnson Funeral Home right here. This is the building you're talking about, Eric. This is the brick building on Sunset Avenue.
That's the building I'm talking about. That building came into existence in 1950. Mr. H.B. Johnson had 3 children, I think 2 daughters and 1 son.
Okay. Yeah, this was, actually, I've been to quite a few funerals here when I was growing up. Grandparents and aunts and uncles, various family members passed away, and we had the funeral here. So it was interesting to me to find that Johnson Funeral Home was indeed another location before they were here.
All right.
Okay, buddy, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Johnson also, in his lifetime of being in the funeral home business, he owned about 7 or 8 Hardee's locations, Hardee's Food Systems locations.
No kidding. I did not know that.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay. All right, so again, this was what, in my limited recollection, not knowing anything about the 1948 address for Johnson Funeral Home, this is the only one I ever knew about when I was growing up. So in my mind, this was Johnson Funeral Home. As you see now, it's referred to as Sunset Memorial Funeral Home. It's not even Johnson anymore. It was sold some years back. And so now I think it's called Sunset Memorial. But there is still a Johnson Funeral Home. Lee, if you would, put up item number 16 for our viewers. And this today is Johnson Funeral Home. And if you're wondering where this is on English Road, down the road from Davenport Motor Company and so forth. This was formerly Mark Bowling Funeral Home was located here. And so after Mark's unfortunate array into the wilder side of life, Johnson Funeral Home acquired this building, of course, and so that's where they're located now. But so this is the 3rd location for Johnson Funeral Home, and I'm not sure, Eric mentioned that Mr. Johnson had some children, so I'm not sure if perhaps one of his daughters or sons may be running the business now. But anyway, this is the location for Johnson Funeral Home now, and as I said, it's on English Road. And right down the road, right down the street from Davenport Motor Company and Honda dealership and so forth over there. Okay, Lee, let's move on then. Another location, another business that I stumbled across in the 1948 Rocky Mount City Directory was a cleaner called Lakeview Cleaners. And this was the ad that appeared in 1948 Rocky Mount City Directory. Home of better cleaning, shower proofing, moth proofing. I know what moth proofing is. I'm not sure I know what shower proofing is. That was kind of a new phrase for me. I kind of scratched my head on it a little bit trying to figure out what that meant, shower proofing. But in any case, there was indeed a cleaner on Sunset Avenue, and you see at the very bottom, it's opposite the city lake. The address being 1618 Sunset Avenue. So this is another one that, again, this was well before my time on the planet. Didn't know anything about this. Never knew there was a cleaners there. But when I did a Google search for 1618 Sunset Avenue, this is what I came up with. So Lee, if you would, put up item number 18 for our viewers, and we'll kind of give them an idea if they're not familiar with the area. So you're Sunset Avenue here, you're looking west, the city lake is to your left. You see the power plant building in the distance there, kind of off to the left a little bit. And on the right there, that's where Bill Street comes in to Sunset Avenue. But in any case, on the right-hand side there, probably where that white building was, and that general area there, is where the Sunset Cleaner was. If you remember from the last week's show, a week before perhaps, we talked about Rip Battle, the pilot, who flew down Main Street and did a barrel roll, and his family lived in a big old two-story house that was here on the right. It actually had a Bill Street address, I think it was. But in any case, the Sunset or Lakeview Cleaner was there on the right-hand side in the general area of where that white building is there on the right-hand side. And you know, my earliest recollection, I think H.H. Weeks Feed Store was there in that location or the area. In later years, Back to Nature Bicycle Shop was there in that general area. But like I said, in 1948, there was a cleaner there, a dry cleaner there, and it was called Lakeview, obviously, right across from the lake. Okay, Lee, let's move on then. Item number 19. In 1948, this business was in business at 615 North Church Street, the NACO Farm Supply Store. They offered Seabird Fertilizer, McCormick Deering Farm Machinery, Farm All Tractors, Root Dusting Machines, International Trucks, and this is another one. Never heard of this company, never knew it was in existence. Not sure how long it had been in existence in 1948 or how long it was in existence after 1948. But in 1948, they were indeed located at 615 North Church Street. And I said, okay, what's there now? And so I went back to Google, did a Google search for the street address of 615 North Church Street. And lo and behold, Lee, item number 19, if you would, this is what I came up with. This is almost kind of catacombs across the street from the Rocky Mountain Awning and Tent Company. It's Williams Foods there, of course, and to your right would have been the old Williams Food grocery store. But in 1948, this was the location for the NACO Farm Supply Company. I have a sneaky suspicion that NACO is an acronym for something. I have no idea what. I won't venture a guess. Maybe someone remembers it, but in any case, back in the 1940s, 1948 specifically, they were in business right here in this location where Williams Food Offices is now. And they sold all kind of farm equipment, fertilizer, seed, all kind of stuff there. But that's where they were. How about that? Okay, let's move on then, Lee. And item number 21. This ad really threw me here because, again, it's another one. I was very familiar with Ross and Winston Auto Parts. However, I never knew that they were ever located on South Washington Street. My earliest recollection of Ross and Winston was when they were over on Church Street, North Church Street, a few blocks up from where we were just talking about there, on the opposite side of the road, of course. And Mr. Ben Winston, and I forgot there was another gentleman involved too. My uncle Billy Donaldson worked there for a while for Ross and Winston. But in any case, in 1948, they were located at 243 to 251 South Washington Street. And this really kind of threw me for a loop because when I got to thinking about that area of Washington Street, I said, well, I don't ever remember there being an auto parts store down there. Then I got to thinking about it. I said, well, you know, a little further down the road on Washington Street, there was a couple car dealerships. Rose Buick, I think, was down that way. So it made sense that to be an auto parts store not too far from a car dealership. But I said, okay, well, let's see where 243 to 251 South Washington Street is today and what's there today. So if you would, Lee, let's put up item number 22 for our viewers. And this was a shock to me. This little three space building here is currently occupied by Moore's Bicycle Shop. But in 1948, Rawls and Winston Auto Parts was located in all three of these spaces right here. I don't know when they moved in there. I don't know when they moved out of this location. And I know Moore's Bicycle Shop has been here a very long time, so I suspect that immediately after Rawls and Winston vacated this building, Moore's Bicycle Shop acquired it. I've not talked to anyone about that and don't have any specific information as far as dates and time frames and so forth. But I know Moore's Bicycle Shop has been here as long as I can remember. And like I said, my earliest recollection of Rawls and Winston was they were located over on North Church Street. So, but anyway, 1948, that's where they were. And I see it. So, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello, caller. You on the air?
All right. I'm not exactly sure about the name that was up there, Ben Winston.
Right.
I think he was somehow or another kin to J.D. Winston that owned the Auto Equip. I never about think that those two men, Ben Winston and Jordan Winston, were brothers. I'm not sure, but I know there was some kin somehow or another between those two people that run similar auto parts businesses.
No kidding. That's interesting. I was not aware of that. I knew both of them, but I knew they were both in auto parts business, but I didn't know there was no relations. Okay, thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay, it's time for our next commercial break. Lee, bring it back to me. We've got about another, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so more sites and addresses and businesses to look at then and now. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Way Back Wednesday. Take it away, Lee.
You're now watching Way Back Wednesday, sponsored by Davenport Auto Park, the ride of your life. And also sponsored by Flores Glass, serving the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Today, having the right healthcare plan tailored to your specific needs is vital to your peace of mind. The question is not if you will need the coverage, but when. And when that time comes, you want to be prepared. With the rising cost of medication, medical procedures, and doctor visits, you should know which is the right insurance plan for you. From life insurance, affordable health care, to Medicare, there are a lot of insurance options available, and choosing a plan can be overwhelming. Having Gus Tullis as your insurance professional on your side will give you peace of mind, because you will know you are covered with the insurance that meets your needs.
Hello, my name is Gus Tullis of Gus Tullis Insurance, and I've been helping people with their insurance needs for well over 20 years. Call me today. I'll answer any question you have. 252-937-6913. Looking forward to hearing from you.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service, we offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
There's a main nerve that leaves your back that goes into your hip and goes down your leg. It's called the sciatic nerve. A back injury can put pressure on that nerve, causing pain, numbness, tingling. Chiropractors can actually help that. At the Hammer Chiropractic Center on Sunset, we know exactly what to do. We have very good relationships with the doctors in Rocky Mount. We like to co-manage people's care. Some medications may help us do our jobs, and our jobs may help their medications work better.
If you or your loved one is living with hearing loss, and if you haven't found a solution that fits your lifestyle, then you should consult with the local experts at the new Hearing Aid Urgent Care in Nashville, North Carolina. Hearing Aid Urgent Care is a place to go for over-the-counter hearing solutions that will improve your daily life and communication between your loved ones and you. Purchasing in our store does not require any prescription or medical recommendation. Our team of experts does recommend a hearing examination so we can help you purchase the correct product for your personal needs. We hold regular listen and learn events so you can ask questions and work with the high-quality products from our vendors to find out what hearing device will best suit you before you buy. Open Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can call 252-459-4008 to find out more information. Hearing Aid Urgent Care located at 102 West Nashville Drive in Nashville, North Carolina.
We're back. Before the break, we were looking at these pictures, and I had a couple thoughts about some of these locations. And when Eric brought up about the possible relation connection between J.D. Winston and Ben Winston, that makes sense to me for a number of reasons. I'm certain the gentlemen, being in the same business, would have known each other, obviously. But and I've mentioned before in the show that I worked for Davidson County Auto Parts for a number of years in the 1970s. Didn't ever really get to know either one of the Mr. Winstons personally, but I knew who they were. Being in the business, of course, you knew the owners of the other parts stores around town, so I knew both of them just at a bit of a distance. But I seem to recall now that Eric had said that, I seem to recall hearing somebody say they were related somehow. Cousins perhaps, I'm not sure, but it was not uncommon for family members to be involved in like businesses. Still to this day, for that matter, that happens. I worked for Davidson Company Auto Parts, and Mr. Grady Davis, who owned the company, had three sons, Grady Paul Jr., one named Frank, and they had a third son, I forgot his name, but anyway, they were all family members involved in various aspects of the automotive parts business. And so it's very likely that J.D. Winston and Ben Winston were related. And so if anyone knows anything about that for sure, feel free to give us a call. And I do know a couple of folks I can call and try to nail that down and verify what relation there was there. But I think Eric is right. I think they were somehow related. All right, let's move on then, Lee. Let's go to item number 23. This goes back a little bit further. 1944, this ad appeared in the Rocky Mount Telegram, and you see it says Proctor's Record Hits of the Week, and it lists several tunes and then the band or the artist that performed that tune. And a couple of those names I did not recognize, but certainly Frank Sinatra's name jumped out at me. The Chuck Wagon Gang, I remember hearing of those. I can't say I ever heard them perform, but they were a band. I think it was 3 or 4 members in the band. But in any case, this business was one I don't think I've ever heard of. And apparently it was like what we would refer to in later years as a record shop. They were located, as you see there. Can you zoom in a little bit on that, Lee? Down at the bottom, there's a couple things that, there you go. Let's see if we can, I think we got it coming. Victor, Blackbird, Columbia, and Decca Records. That's what it says. There you go. And then pan down to the bottom, if you would. There's the song title, by the way. Fry Me a Cookie with a Can of Lard by Will Bradley. Let's Go Joe by Cab Calloway. I recognize Cab Calloway's name for sure. Night and Day by Frank Sinatra. He Set Me Free, the Chuck Wagon Gang. And there you see Victor, Bluebird, Columbia, and Decca Records. And the name of the business was just Proctor's, not Proctor's Record Shop or Proctor's Music Store, just Proctor's. But they were located at 151 South Main Street. And as I said, I'm guessing, this is purely a guess, but I'm guessing they were one of the very early record stores in Rocky Mount. By the 1970s, before they even 1960s, the Record Bar opened at Tarrytown Mall in Rocky Mount here. And I spent many a happy hour as a young person browsing through record labels and later cassette tapes at the Record Bar inside Tarrytown Mall. So I'm guessing this place was maybe a precursor to that business, or that type of business. But in any case, again, 151 South Main Street. Even though it doesn't say Southeast Main, we know that odd numbered addresses were on the east side of railroad tracks. Even numbered addresses were on the west side of railroad tracks. So 151 South Main Street would have been on the east side of Main Street. And Lee, if you would, put up item number, 24. And this is what's, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello, caller, you on the air?
All right. One thing I'll run by you long ago about Proctor's Radio. Your advertisement at the bottom shows Victor and Bluebird. They were record labels.
Right.
Victor later became RCA Victor, and an advertising logo or whatever that RCA Victor had was two dogs that were in the seated position. They were white dogs in Proctor's Radio on Southeast Main Street. There were two of those white dogs. Their names were known as Nipper and Tipper, I think.
I remember seeing those ads of those dogs.
I don't know probably to have ever seen them, but they were like a fiberglass dog that they would put out in front of the store. It was a symbol of RCA Victor in RCA Victor's early days. The large records that had 45 RPM speeds on them, those records were introduced to the American public in the summer of 1949.
Okay. So did you ever go in this record store here?
Oh yeah, I remember. And there was another one a couple of doors down from it, back towards the People's Bank. It was W.C. Reed's. They were a Moss piano dealer, and they also sold records.
Okay.
The 45 RPM records in the early 50s had become a big hot ticket item.
Yeah. I remember I had some. I sure did. All right, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so as Eric said, they were a record store and sold records and I think sheet music too, if I remember. But in any case, 151 South Main Street. And so, Lee, if you would, put up item number, where are we at? 24, I guess it is. And so this would be the location of this business today. And if you recognize it, we were just looking at this exact same location a few moments ago for another business that was a little bit further north. But you see there, the Davis Lofts are located at 147 to 149, and this was 151. So literally directly in the middle of your screen there, those two spaces there, one or the other, and I'm not entirely sure which one it would be, but one of those two spaces, I'm guessing the one to the left, but in any case, one of those two spaces would have been the location for Proctor's, I'm gonna call it a record shop. I don't know what else to call it. It was referred to as Proctor's, but in any case, that's where it was in that ad appeared in 1944. So they must have been there for a few years. Like I said, I don't have any recollection of the business. The RCA Victor mascots that Eric was referring to, the little dogs, I certainly have vivid recollections of seeing advertisements with those dogs in them. They were very heavily used in print campaigns, newspapers, magazines, even on TV. So they were, I don't know if they still use those, if there's any advertising now done with those dogs, but for a number of years they certainly were. Okay, let's move on then, Lee. Item number 20, where are we at? 25. In 1948, this ad appeared in the Rocky Mount City Directory for Woods Service Station. And you see there gasoline, lubricants, scientific motor tune-up. They offered wrecker service, tires, batteries, accessories, general repairs. This is a business I do remember. Mr. Robert Wood was running this place in the 1970s when I was working right down the street at Davis & Company Auto Parts. And I don't know this for sure, but I seem to have some recollection that maybe Robert Wood's father started this business. Don't quote me, I could be wrong on that, but by the time I met Robert Woods, he was already, oh golly, he must have been in his 50s, if not older. And I was in my late teens, early 20s maybe. But in any case, 701 Church Street was on the corner there of Church Street and Bassett Street. It's a vacant lot there now, but it's directly across the street from Tim's Auto Sales, if you know where that is. If you turn off of Church Street, if you're headed south on Church Street, when you get there, turn left onto Bassett Street, and you'd go across the railroad tracks, stand there where Carolina Building Supply and Moore's Body Shop and all that is. But right there on the corner, before on the left-hand side, would be where this was. Oh, we got a picture too, Lee. Let's go ahead and pull up item number 26, if you would. And there's the lot I'm talking about. That's Bassett Street to your left there. It's Church Street at an angle from the top right of your screen to the bottom left. But that corner lot where that white car is sitting, that was Wood's Service Station. And like I said, Mr. Robert Wood was running it in the 1970s, I know, because he was a customer of mine. I've waited on him many times at Davis Company Auto Parts. And I seem to have had a recollection of someone telling me that his father had started that business many years before that. But in 1948, that's where it was located, and it was there into the 1970s at least. I don't recall when the building was torn down, but that's where it was. Okay, let's move on. We're almost out of time. Item number 27. In 1951, this ad appeared for Gay's Country Store. And you see at the very bottom it says O.L. Gay's Country Store in Town. Okay? It was located at 130 South Washington Street. 130 South Washington Street was where Mr. O.L. Gay's Country Grocery Store was located in 1951. And so I wanted to see what was there today. So, I'm sorry, yeah, it's 1951. That's when this ad appeared. So item number 28, Lee, if you would. This was, when I did a Google search of the address, this is actually now the area referred to as Harambe Square. Obviously, this whole area has been extensively remodeled, and over the years it's been rejuvenated, and there's been spaces that were gutted and torn down. Other spaces were completely revamped, remodeled inside. And I've been through about all of this. I've done some work for some of the occupants of the Harambe Square station, these various locations there. So just based on the address alone, 151, it would probably be that space directly in the middle of the screen because the spaces to the right and left have other addresses that are higher and lower. But in any case, this is, of course, if you turn around from this location, it'd be the Edgecombe Community College would be behind you. 5 Points would be down to the right, and to the left would be headed south on Washington Street. But that's where this was located, Mr. Gay's Country Store. All right, Lee, we're almost out of time. Let's go run on here. Item number 29. In 1948, Rocky Mount City Directory, this ad appeared for Rogers Jewelry Shop. I mentioned at the top of the show there was no less than a dozen, or half a dozen at least, maybe a dozen too over the years of various ones that came and went. But Rocky Mount just had an abundance of jewelers downtown over the years. Some stayed in business for a number of years, others came and went and were not in business very long. But in 1948, this business was in business downtown Rocky Mount at 128 South Main Street. And again, because this is an even number street address, we know this is on the west side of railroad tracks. And so 128 South Main Street, I said, okay, what's there today? So Lee, let's pull up item number 30 for our viewers. And today, this is the location, and I believe it's the one directly in the center of your screen, because the one to the right is 126. And so, this is the general area where the jewel box was. Remember the jewelry store? There was a Parker jewelry store down there. We mentioned Gaiman's earlier. But there was just several jewelry stores in Rocky Mount, and sadly, all of them are gone from downtown Rocky Mount now. I don't think there's a jewelry store anywhere in downtown at all. You have to go out to the mall or out to a Westridge shopping center to find a jewelry store anymore. Sad commentary about downtown Rocky Mount, but such as it is. All right, Lee, bring it back to me. It's time for us to wrap it up tonight. Folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. It's been my pleasure to be with you tonight. Hope you learned something. Hope you remembered something maybe that you had forgotten about. As I say many times on this show, every week when I'm doing preparation for the show, I learn something either during my preparation or during the show itself. And that was certainly true tonight too. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another. We'll see you next week with more Way Back Wednesday. Good night. Hello, caller.
Yes, that dog you talking about, the RCA dog.
Yeah.
The one in Tarba at Video TV on Main Street.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
wow.
go there for the classic Donnie used to get off and that.
Okay. Well, I'll have to ride over there and check him out.
You know.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night. I think that'll do it for us tonight. Have a good night, folks. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.